In winter is where summer gardens are created.
If you've ever wanted to grow flowers from seed but felt a little overwhelmed by where to start, today I'm going to show you a simple, affordable method that actually works. It's called winter sowing, and it allows you to grow beautiful flowers using recycled containers, soil, and seeds, while letting nature handle the watering and sunlight.
No grow shelves, no lights, no babysitting.
Hi, it's Steph, and in today's video, I'm sharing a complete winter sowing guide. And when I say complete, I mean everything. The supplies you need, how to make the containers, which seeds to grow, when to start, and I'll even show you real results so you can see how many plants this method actually produces. So what is winter sowing? It's essentially the process of creating a mini greenhouse out of a recycled container where you'll grow your seeds outdoors in winter. They'll get watered by the weather, they're going to get light from the sun, and the seeds are going to sprout once the temperatures signal them that it's time to do so. And after initial setup, it's a really hands-off, easy process. So today I'm going to walk you through on how winter sowing works, and I'm even going to share the results so that you can get excited about what to expect. But first, you're going to need some supplies to get started. You'll need a container to create your mini greenhouse. Now you can use a milk jug or a water jug, but whichever container you use, if it held anything other than water, you want to make sure that you wash it out so that it's clean. Now the container does have to be clear or opaque so that it will allow sunlight in, which will help your seedlings grow. Now I really like these water containers, which is what I use. I like that they have a handle. The milk jugs also have handles. They work really well for me. But some people have also used containers like this. This is a salad container, but whichever container you decide on, make sure that it has enough height to accommodate your soil and your growing seedlings. You'll also need soil, and it's really important that you use potting soil, not seed starting soil. The reason for that is because potting soil is going to be more moisture retention and have more nutrients for your seedlings to grow for the amount of time that they need to be outside. Seed starting mix is a little bit sterile. It's also very lightweight and it doesn't have enough nutrients to keep those seedlings happy. So potting soil is what you need for winter sowing. You'll also need some tools to cut open your containers and to make your drain holes. And for this, you can use a pair of scissors or even a utility knife. And you'll make some drain holes on the bottom, which is really important so that you have proper drainage in your containers and they don't get waterlogged. And you're also going to cut open your container. Now, I like to cut this container almost all the way around, leaving about a 1-inch segment intact to create a hinge. And this is going to be really helpful later when you go to seal up your containers. To seal your containers, you will need some duct tape. Now, duct tape works the best, and you don't want to use duct tape from, say, the dollar store. Ask me how I know. You want a really high quality duct tape. I find that this one by 3M works really well. It's nice and sticky and holds up the whole season outdoors in the weather. You'll also need some kind of marker or pencil that can withstand the elements, nothing that's going to fade or wash off outside in the weather. So for this purpose, I like to use a garden marker, which is specific for outdoor plant tags. And they also have these China pencils, they're called. A China marker, which is a black kind of pencil that you can use to mark your labels. It works really well on duct tape. You can see it's easy to write and it also does not rub off easily. And to sharpen them, you just have to peel them off. So I can actually link these below if you're interested, but these have worked really well for me in the past. And you'll need labels. Now, I find that it's really important to label your winter sowing containers twice. I like to put a plant tag inside, and I also like to label on the outside on the duct tape. And so to label inside, you can just use plant tags like these. They're really inexpensive. You can get quite a bit of them on Amazon. But I've also made plant tags myself with popsicle sticks, recycled utensils. These are just extra knives that I have laying around. And I've even used cut up yogurt, sour cream, or cottage cheese containers. I showed that in a video, which I can link below. And you'll need some seeds. Now, the varieties of seeds that you can grow with winter sowing are nearly endless, but some of my favorites are perennials. Now, perennials are plants that come back year after year, and they're a perfect candidate for winter sowing because most perennials require a season of cold stratification. And this is when the seeds go through through a period of cold and moist temperatures, which help break down the coating on their seed, and they can more readily germinate. Some of the varieties that I've tried in the past are coneflowers. There are so many beautiful varieties of coneflowers. You can also grow rudbeckia, as well as echinops or blue globe thistle, which is one of my favorites. Winter sowing also works really well with early spring or cool weather veggies, things like kale or spinach, and herbs like cilantro, and frost hardy spring annuals like larkspur, bachelor's buttons, and feverfew. Now you might be wondering when to start your winter sowing, and you can actually start anytime in winter. Here in my zone 6B, 7A in Massachusetts, I start in January. But if you're not sure, all you have to do is go to Google and literally ask it when to start my winter sowing and wherever you're located, and it will tell you a range of when to start. So let me go ahead and show you how to create a winter sowing container. You're going to start with your drainage holes. You can do this by poking a hole with your knife or scissor and twisting. I usually make about 5 or 6 holes per container. Then you'll cut your container, leaving about a 1-inch section intact, creating a hinge. This will help you later when you're taping and sealing your containers, and again in spring when you have to begin opening them up to provide ventilation once the weather warms up. The next step is going to be to get your soil prepped. You want to moisten your soil. You don't want it sopping wet. You just want it evenly moist. Then you're going to begin filling your containers with soil, and you're going to fill it with soil until about 1 inch below your cut. Once you have your soil filled, you're going to pat it down to make sure that you don't have any air pockets. You can see that it works really well as an assembly line process because you can make your drain holes, cut your containers, fill all your soil, and then begin sowing your seeds. Now, depending on the variety of seed, you're going to sow them at different depths, so you have to refer to the package for the instructions on how deep to sow your seeds. And don't forget to label. You might think that you'll remember later, but trust me, you won't. So once you're done sowing your seeds, you're going to give it a final watering before you seal things up. You can use a gentle stream on a watering can or even a pump sprayer. And finally, you're going to seal with your duct tape. You want to make sure that the container is nice and sealed so that it will hold in that condensation and that moisture that you need to create this greenhouse effect. Now here's a little tip. If you have more than one variety that you want to sow in your container, you can use some plant tags to create a divider, and that way you can maybe sow 2 different varieties of the same plant or 2 different varieties if you only need a few seedlings of each. It's really important that you don't put the cap back on your bottles, because once you place your containers outside, this is how your containers are going to get watered by snow and rain. Once you set your containers outside, you want to put them in a spot where they'll receive water and snow and sunlight, but away from where they could get toppled over by wind. You also want to ensure that if you tuck them against your house, the eaves, soffits, or overhangs of the house aren't blocking the containers from receiving rain or snow. If you have a dry winter, you might have to provide supplemental water to your containers. And you can test how much moisture is in your container by taking a look at them and picking them up to see if they feel lightweight. If they feel really light, they'll need water, and you can use a hand pump sprayer to provide supplemental water if needed. There's a lot of benefits to winter sowing. Because the seeds grew outside from the start, there's no hardening off needed, that step that you normally have to do to slowly get your indoor seedlings used to outdoor conditions. Winter sown seedlings end up being stronger and more resilient, and the containers act like greenhouses, which protects the seeds from birds and the seedlings from rodents. It's such a rewarding and fun way to grow seeds, and once spring arrives in 3 to 4 months, here's what you can expect. Starting with delphiniums. Now, delphiniums are traditionally a difficult plant to germinate, but they look like they did really well with winter sowing. And look at that. They look so good. So I have 2 varieties in here separated in the center. I have the Magic Fountain Cherry Blossom and the Magic Fountain Sky Blue. When it starts to get warmer during the day, you certainly want to open up these containers so that your plants don't fry or get too hot in that little greenhouse environment. Last night we had 40 degrees and today it's going to get up to 70, so that's a wild temperature swing. So I'm going to get these all opened so that they can start getting some air and so that I can work on planting them out. So this is the Summer Pastels Yarrow that was started on February 5th. This is always so exciting to open these up. And look at that. It looks beautiful. So that is ready to go into the garden.
And that is the other wonderful thing about winter sowing, is that it doesn't require any hardening off. It's already been growing out here in the elements. Now, this is one that most of you warned me about, and I'm going to heed that warning and plant it in a planter and be very careful about letting it spread. This is Malva zebrina. Let's see how many plants I got. Oh, for something that appears to be a super spreader, I only got a couple of seedlings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will plant these in a pot and see how they do, but I will avoid planting them in my garden how I originally planned because I don't want them to become a problem. All right, let's see what's next. Canterbury bells. Now these are a biennial. I started some last year. They should bloom this year. So usually biennials bloom on year 2. They work on root development and foliage in year 1. So I don't expect to get blooms from these this year. But look how beautiful they look. Now this was Buddy Purple Gomphrena that a friend had shared with me. She collected these seeds from her garden. I started these in March. And Gomphrena likes moisture to germinate because it breaks down the chaff on the seed. So winter sowing works really well for them. Look at that. So many beautiful Gomphrena. Now this is a shorter variety, the Buddy Purple, so this would be great for either a front of a border that you wanted to stay low or even in containers. This is Southern Charm Verbascum, also started on February 5th. This one is gorgeous. I have it in my garden and I wanted more of it, so I started some more from seed. So beautiful.
So far, no duds.
Can't say that too soon. This was marigold and there's nothing in here, but I suspected that because the seeds were a little bit older. So you can see there's actually nothing in there. So let's not waste our time opening this one. Let's open some fun ones. Larkspur. This is also a cool weather flower. These are better apparently sown in the fall using the cool seed or the cool flower method. And so I'll be trying that this year. We only got one, which is kind of a bummer, but I am going to plant that out on the larkspur.
How many did you plant in that?
I probably planted about, I want to say 9 to 12 seeds. And the package of seeds I did buy last season, not this season, so they weren't maybe as fresh, but I'm not sure why. I only got one seedling on the larkspur. Coneflowers. Now this is a perennial. I started these from Seed Fresh Pack. I purchased this year back on February 5th. We started these. Now coneflowers are one that I've started from seed before. They don't typically bloom until year 2. That is usually the case with perennials started from seed. And look at that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would say anywhere between 10 and 12 in here. And they look really good. Verbena. Now this is a new to me verbena this year. Typically I grow the bonariensis, which is a bit taller. This one is called Vanity and it should top out at about 24 to 30 inches in height. And that also did really well. Look at that. This is lupin, which a lot of people have a difficult time with lupin germinating, and it does really well with winter sowing. I've done it before, and you can see that it works well. Look at that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 or 6 plants in here, and I put 9 seeds in this container. This was another perennial that I started for the first time this year, Rattlesnake Master. It's a type of Euringium. And there we go. We have some germination on that as well. Now perennials do exceptionally well with winter sowing because most perennials need cold stratification in order for them to germinate. So putting these containers together in January or February allows them to have that period of cold that they need to break down that shell on the seed and to germinate. Oh, sorry, I forgot. What is this one called? This is zinnias actually, and I just started these recently. And I have another tag inside, so we'll look at that. I believe in April. There we go. So these were started on 4/12, so just about a month. And they're doing pretty well. Look at that.
Those look good.
They do look good. Yep. So zinnias work really well with winter sowing. The thing is, because they are warm weather annuals, you don't want to winter sow them in the winter. You sort of have to spring sow them. So you would create your container at some point. I like to do it at the beginning of April, and you can see how fast they grew. This one is Blue Glow Globe Thistle, and I actually grew these from seeds that I collected from my own plants that I grew from seed a couple of years ago. Look at that. They look pretty good. About 9 plants. This is my Atomic Purple Gomphrena. See, this is why it's a great idea to always mark the front and inside with a tag. I might have just used a Sharpie on this one because it's what I had on hand. And that never works well for me, the Sharpie. That was started on March 4th, and we have quite a bit in here. These were also from seeds that I collected from my own Gomphrena plants. So I'm going to split these out and get them planted. This is Lunaria, and one of my sweet viewers sent this to me to start and try in my garden, also known as Sweet Honesty Lunaria. And we have a couple that germinated. These were collected from her garden as well. So thank you, Jamie Lee, for sending these to me. All right, here are the rest of the containers that I opened up. So this one here is columbine, and a friend had shared these seeds with me from my garden club, and I got 2 of them. She just called it navy blue columbine. These were sown on February 5th. And so that's that side. And on this side, I had some old Nora Barlow seeds that I sowed, and you can see no germination on that side. Almost always when you get poor germination or no germination on winter sowing, it's due to the age of the seeds. It could be other factors too, but at least in my experience, it's been that. So this here is some cleome that a friend had given me some cleome plants last year. I planted them out, and oddly enough, the ones that self-seeded in the bed are growing beautiful seedlings, but the ones that I collected seed from to grow here in winter sowing, I didn't get anything from. This one here is marigolds. These were also a couple of years old, this pack of seeds, and I didn't get any germination. This, I did get germination. These seeds were also a couple of years old, but the spotted bee balm I started only in April, and you can see that I have a few seedlings. And the last one that I didn't get any germination on was this coneflower. Again, a pack of seeds that was maybe about 4 years old. I did start some plants that I have out in the garden, and so I could probably collect some of my own seed this year to try growing this variety again. All in all, I started about 24 containers, and in all but about 5 or so, I got beautiful germination. You can see how healthy these seedlings all look, and I'm excited to get them planted and growing out in the garden. So let me go ahead and show you how I would plant out a winter sowing container. So here are the zinnias that we grew, and you just want to flip over your container. You can see all of the root development that we got there. And you just gently squeeze it like you would any kind of plant can. And there we are. And then you just gently tease them apart. For plant spacing on my zinnias, I'm just going to take my thumb and I'm going to make a hole. And I'm going to plant my zinnia, and then I'm going to use my pointer finger as the distance spacer for my next one. So they're going to be this far apart. whatever that ends up being on your hand. It's usually about six or so inches apart. Well, my winter sown zinnias are all planted along with some of the other flowers that I've been growing this season. And in about 2 months, this garden is going to be completely transformed and full of flowers. I grow about 80% flowers in this space and about 20% vegetables, and I can't wait to see it fill out. So thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I'll catch you in the next one.